Hello, I'm Dr. Mark Stock, Superintendent of Schools with Laramie County School District Number 1. I'd like to share with you a little bit of information that was given at our recent community meeting the other night about our Prairie Wind boundary changes. The purpose behind Prairie Wind being built was to increase the capacity at all the schools in the Northern Triad, in the Central Triad. It was to reduce forced busing in our urban areas, and our goal was to create a school on the edge of town so that the rural students could attend. What this does is it reduces the force outs at Jessup, Davis, Hobbs, and Anderson elementary schools. It also reduces the amount of time for our forced busing and the amount of time that rural students spend on their cluster busing where they rotate around the school districts to pick up those kids. It's important to point out that this decision must be made by the Laramie County School District trustees. They're going to make that decision in May, but what they're doing right now is seeking some community input about the options before they make their decision. There are a set of criteria that we've posted on the web for you that you can see that the committees use to make their decisions. As far as Prairie Wind, we're trying to set the rural boundaries for Prairie Wind so we know which students will attend that school. Another goal is to reduce what we call islands at Anderson and Davis. These are areas where students are isolated in the middle and they may go to one school and everyone around them goes to a different school. Another goal is to maintain the neighborhood school concept. Another goal is to minimize the number of students that get forced out to a new school and reduce the disruption to families. This is one of the most emotional issues in a district when they have to redistrict boundaries, and our goal is to keep that disruption to a minimum. We have to fill Prairie Wind. The question is, how far south will we go with that to set that boundary? One of our goals is to set a new school at about 80% full so that we have room to grow as the residents around it continue to develop. In any of these options, one big issue is that the students that are at the point currently will be moving to a new school. Another goal we have is to grandfather in our 6th graders. That means allow them to continue to finish at the elementary school they're currently at so that they don't have to go to another school 2 or 3 years in a row. Now, our process works like this. The Boundary Advisory Committee met on January 28th and looked at 4 different options. They looked at moving the students from the point north to Prairie Wind, west to Davis, south to Hobbs, and another option to split the neighborhood and send a portion of them to Davis and a portion of them to Hobbs. Typically, we have to move students in blocks of 150 in order to create one section at each grade level in that school. We also have to leave enough room in those schools for a little additional growth. So we have vetted 4 different options against that criteria, and we're seeking community input. This meeting here that was held the other night was a public meeting. It's also open now on the web for people to conduct a survey of their pros and cons of these options. And we will also be conducting another community member meeting, especially for those families at Anderson. So I appreciate your input. These things are going to be on the web for your feedback. The next steps work like this. The survey will be open for several weeks. The data will be discussed at that next advisory meeting that's coming up in April. Then the board presentation will come in May, and the board will take action on May 19th. These revisions do not take place till August of 2015. 2015 is when Davis will open and Prairie Wind will open, so these revisions will take place in 2015. This gives our families an entire year to think through their options as far as schools. So thank you for listening, and I hope you'll give us some input.